Onapsis is the leading provider of solutions to protect ERP systems from cyber attacks. Customers can secure their SAP and Oracle business-critical platforms from espionage, sabotage, and financial fraud risks. Visit them on the web at onapsis.com. Signal Sciences is the industry's first web protection platform that works in any cloud, any container, any platform as a service, and any modern application architecture. The Signal Sciences web protection platform can be deployed in next-generation WAF, RASP, or reverse proxy modes, giving customers ultimate flexibility and coverage. Protect your web applications with Signal Sciences web protection platform. Signal Sciences, securing code and connecting teams. For more information, check them out at signalsciences.com/ESW. Endgame automates the hunt for both known and never-before-seen adversaries in enterprise networks. Built on unique knowledge on the adversary's tools, techniques, and tactics, Endgame's centrally managed agent prevents, detects, and responds to advanced adversaries in the earliest stages of the kill chain without prior knowledge. Endgame, automate the hunt. Welcome back, everyone. Quick announcement, ITPro.tv's courses now include ITIL Managing the Lifecycle and Microsoft Hello for Business. Premium annual memberships include all video content, as well as access to virtual labs and Q&A forums. You'd pay normally $85.70 a month or $857 a year, but we have a special offer for our listeners. For a limited time only, get 50% off a monthly membership for the lifetime of your active subscription. itpro.tv/security weekly. What's the discount code for this show? Is it SW50? It's SW50. SW50 is the discount code. That's awesome. From our friends at IT Pro TV, which very quickly, speaking of travel, Jeff's going to give some awesome insights into IBM's InterConnect Conference. Riley of our production staff and Sam, our operations manager, and myself and several other characters from the security community got on a bus and visited the IT Pro TV studios, and it is just awesome. Awesome. Hilarity ensued. There was a lot of hilarity. There was a lot of shenanigans, but their studio is just, I mean, as much as they talked it up, it lived up to my expectations and exceeded my expectations. I was impressed by some of the nerdier details. Like when we walked into their studio, they've got numerous sets with a control center in the middle. And immediately the thing I noticed was, I'm like, I don't see any cables run everywhere. I was impressed with the planning and design of their studio. Their set design was amazing. Their technology was amazing. And they're just an amazing company. I mean, it was very warm welcoming for some of us in the security community to meet up with the fine folks at IT Pro TV. So that was a lot of fun.
So new set design coming, Paul.
Yeah, it was. You would have appreciated. I wish you could have been there, Larry. You would have appreciated some of the things they have on set. They actually have a fake elevator on set that we were instantly designing, like Arduinos and Raspberry Pis to make it look even more realistic, and designing segments. I'm like, I totally have a podcast like 5 minutes from the elevator weekly, where I would just like broadcast from the elevator. Yeah, so it was some cool stuff.
So do they have that so you can do an elevator pitch?
You could, yes. I would do the elevator pitch weekly, maybe multiple shows from the elevator, Jeff. Yeah, right. I like it.
And true confessions, Paul. How many cables are you sitting on top of right this second?
Quite a few.
Yeah.
More than a dozen surround me right now on the floor.
Yep. Don't spill any of that lube behind you.
That's not so much spilling on the cables as it is just wear and tear. Like they just wear out from being walked on and all that stuff. So we're working on it.
Cool.
So Jeff, tell us about this. Was a conference was in Las Vegas, IBM InterConnect 2017, and they actually invited us, which is pretty awesome, actually.
It is pretty awesome. You know, obviously IBM's been around for a long time, and I think as a company they got started. I should have this memorized. You know, back in the 30s, I think it was.
Wow, was it?
And, you know, they're not quite as old as HP, or maybe they're a little bit. Actually, I think they go back further. I think they go back to the teens. And, you know, when I first started out consulting 20-some-odd years ago in the private sector, as a consultant, we were always competing against other consulting companies. And the big boys were companies like IBM, you know, the Big Five at the time, accounting firms. But there was a saying back then, and I think it still pretty much holds true today. Nobody ever got fired for hiring IBM.
Did they make typewriters back in the day?
They did. I made it through college on an IBM Selectric 2 typewriter.
That's funny. A friend of mine had a typewriter repair business and got to a point and then sold it when computers started becoming popular. And it actually survived for quite a while after that as well. But he's like, I got out of that stuff when there was this thing called a computer. So.
Well, yeah, I mean, much like HP, there's this sort of history what the company is known for.
Right.
My earliest memory of IBM is the electric typewriter, and I think my mom got one surplus. She worked for the government, and they were selling off old ones, and she picked one up for, I don't know, $10, $20, and I got to take it to college. But I wrote all my term papers on this electric typewriter, and I loaned it out. I should have charged people, but I didn't. But a lot of people used my typewriter because it wasn't common in the early to mid 80s to even have an electric typewriter.
Right.
But fast forward a few years, and I don't know, you might be a little bit too young, but the first personal computers, the big splash was made by the IBM PC, the IBM desktop, and they were everywhere. I had them in the government, and their partnership with Microsoft and DOS at the time is kind of what launched Microsoft. So, IBM has a reputation for being innovative, and I actually got in trouble one time many years ago because I was working for a company, and we had to doing PCI work, so we had to tour their data center, which happened to be hosted by IBM. And so I'm in Boulder, Colorado, going through their data center, and we're getting the dog and pony show from the IBM, site manager, whoever he was. And we're just walking around the hallways and looking through windows at the big operations centers and all the racks and stuff like that. They wouldn't let us in, but they had windows. And I just made some comment, and this was probably 10 years ago at this point, that I thought it was interesting that as long as IBM had been around, that they'd never changed their color scheme on their logo. And if you remember, IBM used to be sort of a grayish white, kind of a battleship gray, just kind of IBM. And that was kind of their logo. Well, I got in a lot of trouble because the IBM people heard it, and I didn't know it at the time, but IBM cares a lot about its brand, and they're very protective of their brand, and so on and so forth. So complaints went up the IBM management chain over to our customer, which bled down to we were the consultants that had been hired, and I got chewed out for, what did you say about IBM? I said, I thought it was interesting that they were still Battleship Gray as their logo. But so, fast forward to a couple weeks ago and going out to the IBM InterConnect Conference, which is basically there's users conference. And if you've ever been to Black Hat, it's in the same facility, Mandalay Bay. And it's kind of like Black Hat. It's got a huge expo. They've got courses and seminars going on. I mean, they had something like 2,300 talks and seminars going on over the course of 5 days. So it's huge. It's huge. But it's all IBM or IBM partners. I mean, the whole expo floor was IBM. So you didn't have 1,000 different booths
from
with different companies. You had 1,000 different business units or partners or areas of
but
focus.
when you think about
all IBM,
when you think about the technology, Jeff, I'm sure IBM is still big on DB2 and AS400, and is AIX. Are they still selling the AIX brand of Unix machines?
I did see AIX. I thought it had gone away, but I did see an AIX rack.
OS 390. So they're still big on their mainframe. Is it the Z platform still?
I believe so. I mean, my focus was security. They have a business unit now, IBM Security, which was spun up, I want to say in 2011. And, it was funny. So I go out there and I'm like, IBM Security, I'm here to learn because I don't really know what they're doing. And I got to go to a lot of presentations and talks, and they had a huge, probably 50-foot by 50-foot booth that was just IBM Security. And, gradually I remembered, IBM.
They bought this company.
Yeah, they're. I mean, and I think it started with ISS. Actually, I think it started with. I've got a cheat sheet here with AppScan. I think AppScan was the first thing that they bought.
No, I think it was before. Well, they had NetRanger was their IDS that they bought a long time ago. Right.
So they've bought a lot of technologies, and so they bought into in the early days of internet security, where there were startup companies that were quickly acquired by larger companies. IBM was one of them. But the biggest one that I remembered was ISS. And so they still have X-Force as a brand. X-Force was the hacker dev O-Day finding team for ISS back in the day, and they still call their consulting X-Force, and they still do pen testing and pro
In fact,
services.
I think it's Chris Poulin, who I saw at the InfoSec World, works for X-Force.
Sounds right.
I met someone else who was my A for the day at InfoSec World in terms of vendors. Her name was Camilla. She actually worked at IBM, not at IBM, but for ISS, pre-getting bought by IBM, which then didn't surprise me that she was my A for the day in explaining vendor for explaining what problem they solve and what their products do. She was my A for the day. Hi, Camilla. You're awesome. We got high fives going on. She was my A for the day. So
cool. Yeah, so gradually as the week progressed, I realized, they're talking about this product and that product that used to be such and such a company. So they've obviously gotten very serious. It's a separate business unit, IBM Security. That's they've embraced the fact that that's a big part of this whole internet security thing. And of course, the main themes of the whole conference were moving to the cloud, the Internet of Things, and machine learning, which is Watson, which is what they call cognitive. So, those were sort of the overarching themes. I mean, starting from the opening keynote, the chairman and CEO and president of IBM, woman named Ginny, her last name escapes me right now, but very recognizable, very personable, and very excited about talking about all the great things that IBM's doing, sort of tackling a lot of the problems of mankind, like medical research and I mean they even announced a partnership with H&R Block, so Watson now can help you do your taxes, which might not sound like much, but if you have complicated taxes, that's a huge deal. So they're a big company trying to solve a lot of the world's problems, make life a whole lot easier, and they're still very sensitive to the brand. But part of my experience is like, wow, this is not the battleship gray IBM that I knew 10, 15 years ago. They've really taken to heart that, like many companies in this world. Technology is advancing so fast and venturing into different areas. They've realized they need to change and evolve and still be innovators and still be ahead of the curve and doing great things.
And I think they have done that. I mean, even outside of security, and the reason I know this is because we used to use them for our live streaming is Ustream. IBM bought Ustream, who we used for a long time for our live stream. So. And they bought Resilient Systems, going back into security. Yes. Did you get a chance to catch up with the folks from Resilient Systems? People speak pretty highly of their products. So
I did. I actually used to work with a woman at VeriSign. She was the sales rep for one of my key Boston-based retail customers. And she actually works for Resilient. And I just happened to notice on LinkedIn, maybe a week before I headed out to Vegas, that wait a minute, she's working for IBM now. So I messaged her and said, are you going to be out in Vegas? She goes, yeah. I said, so am I. So we got together, and it turns out she's working for Resilient. And, so I got to talk to her, and she introduced me to some of the Resilient folks, the CEO of Resilient, who's now, I guess, executive VP of Resilient or whatever. The thing is, he gave one of the talks that I sat in on, and even Bruce Schneier, I think, is the CTO for Resilient.
Yeah, he was one of the founders of
as an
Resilient.
IBM. Yeah, he's an IBM advisor now, and he gave one of the general session talks. So yes, I did run into Resilient. I actually ran into. It was funny because the booth that they had for IBM Security was 2 levels. They had a loft sort of in one corner, and I had been shown around all the different products and technologies sort of on the main floor. But I was kind of curious, what's upstairs, what's up there? That hacker mindset. I want to find out what's more. So when they weren't looking, I went up the steps, and it turns out that's where the consultants were. That's where the X-Force was, and I started talking to a woman up there, and mentioning that, oh, X-Force, that's old ISS, and she goes, I used to work at ISS. I'm like, wow, you've been here this whole time? And she goes, yeah. So she's been with IBM/ISS for like 12 years. So we were just talking about old times and what life was like, when ISS was ISS. And
was it in when did they IBM acquire ISS? Was it right in the early 2000s? It was pretty early on, right? Because
no, it was. I thought it was earlier too. It was actually the end of 2006. So it's been just over 10 years. Wow. But yeah, it seems like it's been forever, doesn't it? But I was kind of impressed because I was, like I said, I've been around from the beginning, and sort of the first wave of security companies that formed like in the mid to late 90s, most of them got sucked up, within 18 to 24 months. Ron Gula's first company, the Dragon IDS, Network Security Wizards, lasted all of 18 months before they got acquired. The Wheel Group, which was the big daddy back then, they were acquired by Cisco, within 18 months, 2 years, something like that. Computer Associates, Network Associates, they were sucking up everybody. So, and what they did in those days was basically they were buying companies to get a specific technology, and they sort of cast aside whatever else they acquired, because a lot of these companies had consulting groups, and I've always sort of had a bias towards consulting, and many consultants were kind of cast aside because these companies were required to get a specific technology. They've got a firewall, they've got an IDS, they've got an IPS.
IBM bought one of the web app scanning companies that was big in AppScan in that was like in the 2006 kind of time frame, because I remember we had we're just started the podcast, and they were big, and their founder was a very energetic individual. I don't remember his name, but and then instantly they were swallowed up by IBM. And I mean, they still have a great web app scanning platform to this day.
Which one?
So,
Larry, I think it was in 2005 when we were at the conference that started this podcast that AppScan. What were they called back then? I don't even remember now.
Was that NTO Spider?
Nope, it was way before NTO Spider. I don't remember the name of the company, but they had one of the big app scanners at the time.
Yep.
But sort of that first generation, that first wave of acquisitions, I think IBM. I don't recall that they were really involved in that, but they certainly took a lesson. I was very impressed that I met somebody that was. And there was quite a few people that were still from the original ISS still working for IBM. I thought that was a great testament to, IBM's doing something right, that they haven't cast everybody off, and especially from the consulting side. So like the guy that runs X-Force, a gentleman named Charles Henderson, he and I used to work together way back at TrustWave. And, I had a chance to very briefly meet up with him. I hadn't seen him in years. And, we're going to get together again sometime soon. But so that was going into it, just sort of getting my head around, IBM, that this is what's going on. The special sauce, what's the big thing about so much of what IBM's doing is this whole idea of machine learning and cognitive, and they're trying to apply that to all the different technologies that they have. And that was a lot of the talks that I heard, and probably one of the most significant ones was they were talking about Q Radar, their threat detection platform, which you can argue whether you like it as a platform, remember the legacy before it was acquired, but applying the machine learning, applying Watson to it, they were talking about 85 minutes to the average time to handle an event down to 2 minutes. That's significant. That's saying something. And I might not have the numbers right, but they have talks out there, but it was something huge like that, 80 something down to 1 or 2 minutes. So there's certainly the idea that machine learning and that much computing power and automation being applied to, I think what a lot of times we agree to is this overwhelming amount of data that's coming in terms of, just network activity, having to monitor everything. How do you know what's right, what's wrong, what's good, what's bad? We talked about it with the.
Sorry, Jeff. I was confusing IBM and HP. HP bought Spy Dynamics. That was the company that I was actually thinking of. And then around the same time, I think IBM AppScan was originally developed by an Israeli software company, Sanctum Limited. So they both made acquisitions in that area. Okay.
Yes. Okay. So it was AppScan, and what was the HP?
HP's is Web Inspect, and that was originally Spy Dynamics. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, it's all coming back to us. So, the biggest thing that IBM has got going for it is obviously the Watson, and the way the Watson is being applied in many places, and they're making a serious investment into putting Watson into the Security Operations Center. In fact, somebody decided to innovate and give Watson a voice, so you could actually talk interactively with Watson. So, and they had a demonstration of that. It was weird, but it was kind of cool too. A lot of the companies now that are, have, if you go to a website and the little thing pops up, hey, talk to somebody now. Well, you're really talking to a bot, right? And it reminded me of that a little bit, but on a much larger scale. One of the really coolest things that they talked about, and it's in Cambridge, we should somehow do a Security Weekly field trip or something, but the X-Force has opened up a command center, and they call it a cyber range. And what they're doing is they've set up a mock company and a mock security operations center. They invite companies to come in, and not just the tech people. And in fact, they're not even focused on the admins and the security people. They want the managers to come in. They want the C-level people to come in, and they go through a mock exercise of a breach. Like, they have a room with a green screen, and they say, okay, the media wants to talk to you in 90 seconds. Who's going to go talk to the press? Go. And then they make you go do it. And so they just kind of, they're not going through the detection. They're going through the response. What do you do in terms of a breach? Who's calling law enforcement? Who's the public relations liaison? Who's getting in touch with it? If it's a retail thing, the card brands or whoever, the governing agencies are. And they have this half-day program set up where you just go in and experience how to handle a breach. That sounded really cool. I was hoping to try to get a tour of it next week when I'm up in the area for B-sides, but they're not going to be around. But we should definitely try to do like a road trip or broadcast, remotely from the cyber range sometime that's over in Cambridge.
Nice.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And to underscore the fact that, just some closing thoughts, that IBM has humanity in mind and they're trying to better society. I thought one of the coolest things was, they had 20-some thousand people attending, and the whole time it was going on in a corner of the expo area, the convention center area. They had a group come in that was assembling basically food packages, putting meals together, and they had everybody volunteer their time. So all the attendees, all the executives, all the important people all took time to go over and help package up and create meals for underprivileged and poor people in third world countries and stuff like that. And their goal was I think, was to get 100,000 meals assembled, and they got close. Before they had to shut it down, I think they got to 75 or 80,000, something like that. So it was just kind of cool to see, important people, managers, guests, everybody just kind of rolled up their sleeves, put on the plastic gloves, and I had to wear the mask because I had a beard and a hairnet and all that, even though I don't have any hair.
Don't really need the hairnet.
But, rules are rules, and I followed the rules. And, so that was kind of cool. And so, yeah, they're doing some amazing things, and they're definitely focused on security, because it's security that, they recognize is kind of not going away and is kind of an important piece to this whole puzzle we call life.
Awesome. Well, thanks for the update, Jeff. That's really cool. I'm glad. I'm glad actually you get to spend some time with both two of the largest companies in technology and it's refreshing for us in security to see that they have a focus on security and get put up with them. So that's awesome. All righty.
Randomly, just final thought, not that anybody cares, but the first day I'm there, I go on the Twitter and I see a picture of Jason Street saying, hey, I'm in Vegas. I'm like, dude, you're in Vegas? I'm in Vegas. So I got together with Jason and we hung out one night.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yep. it was fun to see another hacker in Vegas. 'Cause, it's weird to be in Vegas
without another
hacker summer.
Yes. Need to buddy up with hackers in Vegas. I agree. With that, we're going to take a short break, come back and talk about the security news for this week. So stay tuned. Don't go anywhere.